It's 6 o'clock on September 19th. I'll call this meeting of the select board to order. First thing up, Finance Committee, Renee Burbett.
She told me she was gonna join us on Zoom. I don't see her on Zoom right now. So maybe we can table it, and if she comes on later, we can.
Table code additions and deletions.
So we wanted two things tonight. One is a conversation and a decision potentially of purchasing, financing an excavator for the DPW department. The other is a conversation about starting a working group over the Woodstock Aqueduct that a citizen requested to have. So I request both those get added, probably both under new business.
And we're deleting the Board of Sewer Commissioners?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it's nothing on the Board of Sewer Commissions for today. Thank you, Susan. That's how we email back and forth ahead of time.
Citizens' comments.
I don't see any online.
Comments. Managers report.
So a few things. One, I'm happy to report that the town made an offer. It had a candidate accept the offer for a finance director for Woodstock. The person's going to start in 2 weeks. We're excited about the potential of having this person on board. We think it could be a good fit for Woodstock and really help us kind of move forward and kind of get our finances in a shape that is more understandable for everyone. I'll have more news once the person starts, and we'll have a formal introduction to the community and everything else once he's on board.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Second, I talked to the chair already. I'll be at the International Cities and Managers Conference starting on September 30th to October 4th. So I will be on Zoom for the select board meeting that Tuesday, but I'll be able to participate via that way. And Nikki Nurse and staff the board ahead of time to make sure we're all set. Finally, talking about the Woodstock Aqueduct Company, John Spector was able to use his connections, and the Harvard Business School has agreed to work with the town to analyze the options of what should happen with the Woodstock Aqueduct Company, and kind of answer some questions I put together for them on what a purchase would look like, what's the cost benefit of purchasing the company or not purchasing the company, and some other questions as well. So we're going to have an outside group of, future scholars and prior presidents working for us. So I think that'll be hopefully a good thing for us.
And for free.
And for free, yes. So that's what we have there. Financial reports you have in front of you. Again, it's still pretty early days, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Susan Ford was kind enough to ask questions beforehand, which I hopefully answered to her liking. But anything else, I'm happy to take on.
No questions? Local license permit.
No questions.
As before, I know the board's frustration with the way the liquor license applications look like. They give us no information. I think the last conversation we had was not to even include them because it gave us no information. I think the motion has always been for the board to approve it with the assumption the state's going to do the due diligence afterwards. This is for the Aracucci Yacht Club. So looking to section off an area outside and have picnic tables and be able to have alcohol served out there as well. So I think it's still on the board to go from there.
Is there a motion?
I just had a quick question. Do they must need some kind of zoning permit as
Yep,
well?
they have a zoning permit. That's all set. I have in front of me.
So I would move we approve the Aracucci Yacht Club outside consumption permit based upon the assumption that the state is actually reviewing the application since we can't.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay. None? None? Old business?
Cloud Lane Road, So as the board voted on a few months ago, the town's closing Cleveland Road starting this Saturday up until, I believe, October 15th. Myself, Mark Hunter, the DPW director, and Chief Green were out there last week looking at options to set up some no parking signs and some no parking areas to kind of help avoid people parking there, then trying to walk up, which is obviously what we don't want to avoid. Mark Hunter today was able to get a sign that'll go in front of Billings Farm, letting people know that it's closed. So ideally, they can turn around at that point instead of going all the way to Cleveland Road and then going to Tassel Bridge, which I know we were worried about. So that's going to be in place. We'll pick that up on Friday, have that going by Saturday. And then we'll see how the first weekend goes and make adjustments from there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Happy.
Any questions?
No, but that's gotten quite a bit of press coverage, hasn't it?
Just a little bit.
Ray, I have a question. This is Kathy Emmons.
Go ahead.
Just wondering, so did you want us to put some parking signs near the cemetery wall? And we also wanted to just barrel off and put no parking signs for that parking area so it doesn't get congested with cars.
Yeah, I think the conversation we had when we were out there that Mark Hunter was going to put up some barrels, and he's here. You can speak to that in that dirt area to avoid
Okay.
parking there. If Pomfret has extra signs, we'd happy to take them and set them up where we can. We don't have an excess of signs, so we'd be happy to take those and try to put them where we can.
Okay, yeah, we do have some. Pomfret set up all of their signs and things today, and we'll do the final barricade signs Saturday morning. We have some of the neighbors going down to just move them into the road up here. So we can, I think Jimmy Potter does have a few more no parking signs. So we could, do you want us to leave them there, or what would you like to do? Would you like us to put them up along the cemetery?
Mark, you can be up there Friday, right?
Yes, I'll set up the barrels Friday afternoon. I'll design the billboard tonight.
Yeah.
Friday. Late, yeah.
So Mark Hunter will be out there in the afternoon on Friday. So if you want to maybe leave him, or can you meet him sometime in the afternoon on Friday?
I can. I have to be at work around 3 o'clock up at our restaurant. So Mark, if we could meet around 1, that would be awesome. Does that work?
Yes, that works, Mark.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. New business, schedule budget hearings that,
Yeah, so I believe today both boards, the select board and the trustees should have got an email from Nikki Nurse asking about setting up a kickoff meeting for the budget for FY25. The goal of that meeting is to have department heads coming from the boards, kind of discuss FY23 accomplishments, the needs and challenges for FY24, and then also kind of long-term challenges they see as well. So just the boards are aware of what the asks will be in the budget and why those asks are in the budget. Kind of have a little more informational session before we get into actual the number crunching. Once that meeting is scheduled, we'll then schedule meetings with Finance Advisory Board and the department heads for about an hour afterwards, so they can first meet and go from there. And then we'll kind of kick into a schedule when the budget are due back in my office and to the boards and so on and so forth. So it's really nailing down that first meeting that we can then kind of plan everything off that.
all right, thank you. Any questions on that from the board? Update from the national parks. Come on up.
Great, where would you like me?
Right here, this little microphone, if you can.
All right, so thank you, everyone. Rick Kendall, National Park Service over at Marsh Billings Rockefeller.
Would you mind taking like one more step forward so you can see
Yeah.
you in the camera?
Would you
Perfect.
need to sit at the
No,
table?
you can say if you want, what you're more comfortable with.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll sit. It's fine. So,
Yeah.
okay, can everyone online hear me?
Yes, yes.
All right, great. So working with Eric over the course of the last month or so, we recently signed a renewal of the cooperative management agreement between the town and the National Park Service. And the management agreement allows national parks to work more closely with towns that share land borders with national park land, as we do with like the Billings Farm, or not the Billings Farm, the Billings Park. And allows us to work collaboratively to manage not only parklands, but also town lands as well. And we've been really pleased to work with the town over the course of the last 5 years of the agreement, and in particular, Zoe Parent, who has been really key to a lot of the work that we have done, at least on the financial side. And we hope to enjoy many future years of collaboration together. And Eric suggested that sharing some of those highlights from the last 5 years would probably be of interest to not only the board, but to town members as well. So I'm here to share a few of those things with you. The focus of the agreement has been sort of 4 core areas. One of them is trail stewardship, both at the park and at the Billings Farm, or said it again, Billings Park. And so for the past several years, the agreement has facilitated securing a series of trail crews of 6 youth with like either the SCA or the BYCC that have completed trail stewardship projects both on parkland as well as national park land, as well as Billings Park land as well. And that includes things like tread rehabilitation and drainage enhancements and brushing and some invasive species work and resurfacing. And most of this work was accomplished through the NPS obtaining funds through some of our fund sources, and then working with the town to bring on the youth crews that then do the work at both Billings Park and the National Park. And it's been a great success going forward. We also have a public safety element to the agreement, which allows us to convey funds to the town for their assistance in providing public safety services at the park, whether it's alarm response or jumping in on busy event days for providing some traffic control on Elm Street and the crossing from the Billings Farm and Museum parking lot where most of our visitors park. Probably the largest tranche of success stories from this agreement has been in stewardship and education, partnership with the Woodstock schools. We've had a long and productive partnership with the Woodstock schools, advancing place-based education programs that connect local students to the park and to Billings Park and to King Farm. Through that agreement, we provide half of the salary for Woodstock Union High School's place-based learning coordinator, Kat Robbins, who many of you may know, who supports both teachers and students with their work directly. And Kat is really such a dynamo that it's some of the most impactful money that we spend each year is supporting Kat and her work. And just a couple of the highlights there, Kat's been collaborating with over a dozen teachers in different disciplines and with a small core in her place-based education team on developing a program called CRAFT, C-R-A-F-T, which stands for Climate and Community Resilience Through Agriculture, Forestry, and Technology, which is essentially a track that students at Woodstock Union can follow that provides them with hands-on interdisciplinary learning experiences to ignite or to advance their knowledge in those areas, that community resilience and agriculture and forestry and technology. Over 30 students over the 2 years the program has been in place have participated. There have been 3 off-campus student learning retreats, 3 career panels, 9 teacher professional development sessions have come out of this work, and it's really turning into a very impactful project that Kat has been leading. Kat also works outside of that program with just more one-time opportunities that come up, things like designing solutions for ecological monitoring challenges at the national park, service learning projects for students. One led to maple sugaring operations at the King Farm, which is exciting stuff. Researching and designing and implementing a student-designed pollinator garden at the National Park Service Forest Center. constructing and building a maternity bat house, and interpretive material, again, on display at the national park. So just a lot of different great engagement opportunities for students at Woodstock Union Middle and High School. And we're really thankful to have Kat as part of that team. And then the last pillar of work that occurs as part of this agreement is shared landscape care, particularly of the green mowed lawn areas along Elm Street and Route 12 that border the park and the roadway. But just a sampling of some of the work that has gone on over the last 5 years. We're very happy to have the agreement renewed, and we look forward to another productive 5 years of working with the town. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Halloween candy discussion.
So I think this is a yearly thing. The trustees last meeting voted for $750 to be allocated to buy candy for the section of streets during Halloween. I think the ask is for the select board to do something similar.
I'd move we give 750 for, that's the amount, right?
Yes.
For Halloween.
I would second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Before we move on, I believe Renee is online. If we want to hop back quickly, talk to her.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi,
Okay, you can hear me?
yes.
Okay,
Uh,
good.
You want to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are interested in this position?
Well, I am a branch manager of a bank, so I have some financial background. I've also done taxes and I've been a business manager of a small business. So I have some accounting background as well, and I live in town and active in the community. So I thought, why not jump on board and see how else I can help?
Have you been to any of the meetings?
I was at one last week, yes.
And you'll be able to make the meetings as needed?
Yeah, I can make the meetings.
Any other questions? Any questions?
It's just one vacancy, is that?
Yeah.
Really?
So if there's no questions, we can think of any other applicants?
No.
I'd move we appoint Renee Herbert to the finance committee. Hebert,
Hebert.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
And Renee, you have the trustees in, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, and once they vote on you, it'll be official.
Sure. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
And now we have presentation from Jeff Grout. That's me.
Yeah, if you want to come sit up.
It's up here. This was, my understanding was supposed to be a introduction of you originally,
Okay.
and we can't, and Sustainable Woodstock has been doing this for a while. We can't take things like,
Get rid of my.
we need things Thursday before the meeting, so we have a chance to review them.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Sure.
so this will be the last time. Next time it'll be just have a nice night. See you later.
Got it. No, I apologize. I didn't know that, but
Now you do.
I do now. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll give you about 10 minutes.
Okay, yeah, I'll
That's
just,
great. Thank you.
Nikki, can you give Jeff the ability to share the screen? Is she already? Oh, yeah, never mind, Nikki.
Yeah,
got it. Great.
Sorry, Nikki, you're ahead of me.
Okay, what do we see up here? I can hide this. And everybody can hear me okay? All right, I'm the intermunicipal regional energy coordinator I work for Two Rivers. We've had a great partnership with Woodstock and Sustainable Woodstock for the last couple of years. We've got some nice energy projects going through, so we just thought we would review those real quick. You have copies of the presentation, and so I'm gonna kind of talk through this pretty quick, but if there are any questions, let me know. And people on the screen can see this as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. All right, who the heck is Jeff Grout? Well, I just wanted to let you know who I was real quick. I've been in the utility industry for about 10 years. I'm a certified energy manager and project manager. And the main thing that I think is important to Woodstock is basically I'm serving you as an independent energy consultant. So I work on energy projects. I've got a lot of experience working different EE projects around the country, basically worked on some EV programs and some demand response programs. And just excited to work on the programs we have going for Woodstock right now also, so. And I've got 10 minutes. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. So if there are questions, I think you can go ahead and fire away. What are my goals? Basically, I tracked the energy usage of the town and the carbon emissions. We've got quite a few projects going on right now, which we'll discuss. And the main thing is whenever you get an energy project, you know how much money you spend up front. You're usually told how much energy you're going to save. And one thing I like to do is to track that and make sure you're actually seeing those savings. And I do have to say that in the last few years, you know, probably more than a few years actually, but the energy improvement, the way they calculate energy savings has really improved. So if you're working with a good contractor, you're probably going to get pretty accurate results of what's going to happen. But the main goals are, I look for energy savings. I look for grants that can help save the town money and reduce your energy spend if we can. So, page down. So the first one we've got going, this project was completed last year. It's actually the Woodstock Emergency Services Building. IREC was instrumental in getting a $50,000 energy efficiency grant for this project. It's got air-to-air and air-to-water cold climate heat pumps. It does still have a propane system that will be used for backup heating if needed in the winter. It's going to cut down on propane use drastically. This is the winter we'll really see if those savings come to fruition. Basically, it was calculated savings of 81% in propane use. And basically, I think it might even be less than that because that will probably be a background. You've got a really efficient heat pump system there. So it really should be able to handle the heating most of the time. It also included some real, what they call super insulation in the building. This type of building with open bays, doors that open and close are sometimes a challenge, but with proper management, this should be a really good, efficient building, and you should really see these savings. So one key thing I'll be doing over this winter, this will be the heating system wasn't actually completed and up and running until May. No heating last year. So this is the year we'll really see some heating savings in that building. And we'll be tracking that pretty closely to make sure that we actually get the heating, the heating savings that they calculated, which they should. We're also the electric school bus grant. This is pretty exciting. I think actually it was a $1.6 million grant. It provided 3 electric buses. It paid for them 100%. It paid for most of the charging system. There's going to be a charging system down at the Woodstock High School. And I think the one cost that the school district had was to run the power from the pole to the charging station location. And then the grant covers the rest of those costs. The thing I like to focus with the electric school buses is these buses are really a large electric battery on wheels. And there's some exciting programs they're trying. They've got a few sample cases in other regions in New England where you can actually drive the school bus and use it to power a building for days, usually because of the size of the battery. So it really helps with your community resilience programs. When you have a real emergency and there's no power, these buses can actually be driven to where you need the power and plugged in. I don't know of any actually in New Hampshire yet, but They're all around us, and that's a multi-purpose use. I think when it comes to energy systems and energy savings, whenever you have multi-use systems, it's really beneficial. So it's not just moving the kids around and getting them to school. It's actually powering, it can power buildings during emergencies as well. So that's what I think is exciting. That excites me anyway, so. This is an ongoing program, and I think everybody's probably aware of this because the funds were approved quite a while ago. The project's been delayed a little bit because of flooding this year. It was scheduled to start earlier in the season. Basically, it's an energy upgrade at the wastewater treatment facility, the DPW building, the old fire station, and the Welcome Center. The energy components, are pretty similar to what happened at the emergency services building, where we're going to upgrade the insulation, do some air sealing, install LED lighting, heat pumps. The real feature here, I think, too, is a direct digital control system so that they'll be able to control the buildings from a remote location and optimize the energy savings and the energy use at all of the buildings remotely. So, and again, the real key here is to get the project done, but then also to make sure that we actually achieve the energy savings. So we'll be documenting all that as well. And this was calculated to save greenhouse gas emissions by about 12% and also cut down dramatically, basically eliminating fossil fuel use at these buildings, except in times of real extreme cold weather. Oops. The other very recent update is the Municipal Energy Resilience Program. This is an opportunity worth up to $500,000 awarded for weatherization and HVAC upgrades to municipal buildings. And this is in 3 stages. There's a mini grant stage, an energy assessment stage, and then the actual project grant of the up to $500,000 to upgrade your energy systems in your building. We applied for and were awarded the $4,000 mini grant. That can be used for a number of different energy purposes, energy consultant, energy studies. It can be used to pay part of my fee, apparently. So that's always something to consider. And the big news is you were just awarded an energy assessment for this building. And this is completely funded by the state of Vermont. There's no cost at all to Woodstock. It'll give you a very professional energy assessment of the building. And anything that's stated on that report can be used to get the $500,000 grant to actually do the upgrades that they find. So that's kind of a priority at this point. We want to really try to win that grant and go forward. But the next step is the energy assessment. I think you just got notified this week for that.
Yeah, they're gonna approve, yeah.
Okay, so that probably puts you out about 6 weeks to get that. I think the next slide, if you can even see this, is a little bit of a timeline, but we are right at the very beginning of this timeline. So the assessment started. Just to get a quick idea of when this would actually happen. The good news here is the money is already in the state, and the state really is prioritizing getting these grants out. So that's good news going forward. The applications for the energy assessment can be open as soon as probably 4th quarter of this year after you get the assessments. The energy assessment can also be used to look for other funding, other loans, other grants that might be available. And we'll certainly look for that as we go forward once we know exactly what the building needs. I think there's been quite a bit of work done here already, so it's probably not going to uncover too much more than is already known about the building and what it needs. But this stresses weatherization in energy systems, specifically upgrading heating systems, trying to reduce fossil fuel usage in municipal buildings. It does not cover structural. So roofing, any structural issues, that is not covered, but it is a very good loan for internal energy systems. And coming up, this is really my last slide, so I went through this pretty quickly, but that's probably good news for everybody. The meeting's moving pretty quick tonight anyway. So, but I will continue to monitor energy savings and energy usage. We'll cut down on that. I might have missed a slide, but did I show the slide with the Woodstock goals after mine? Yeah, I somehow skipped over. I wanted to make sure you know what goals I'm working toward because I have my goals, but basically they match Woodstock's goals. Did I show this slide or did I skip over that? So, you know, that's really the high level of what we're working toward, which is these were approved by the voters of the town to cut back on greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, ready for 100, which is 100% renewable energy, and transition as much as possible from fossil fuels to renewable energy. But, you know, we want to make sure goals are aligned. The big thing here is we're looking for grants that'll save the town energy and also energy savings. And a key part of that is making sure we know where that energy is spent right now. One thing that's interesting is the energy spend. I should have had the actual number with me, which I don't, I apologize. But what was surprising to me is that your town is similar to most of the town. I work with 6 other towns in the region, and every town spends over half of their energy spend is on actual fleet vehicles, which is any vehicles you have for the town, but mostly snow plows, road equipment, things like that, more than you spend on actually heating your buildings. So that was interesting. Maybe it's obvious to you, but to me, it was a little bit of a surprise. So that's all I have, unless there's any questions.
Any questions?
I do.
Yes.
The buses, how do you hook them up to different buildings? Do they have to have a receptacle?
Yes, they do. Yeah, it's like,
Got to be upfitted.
absolutely, right, yeah, and that, I don't want to say that that's going to be ready to plug in as soon as you get them. That's a project that'll be down the road. And it's similar to like shore power on a ship, for example. When a big ship comes into port, they like to shut down their diesel engines and plug in this huge,
Right,
and it won't be that big, but
yeah.
yeah, it'll be, you know, large enough so you can do that. And I think that really is going to happen, so.
And you say it can power buildings for days? I mean, like what, like?
Well, you
all
wouldn't want to,
year?
you wouldn't want to have 100% of your heat on and all your buildings on, but you could power your critical equipment, you know, keep the building warm enough so your pipes don't freeze. You'd want to reduce your lighting. If you have LED lighting, you could probably use quite a bit of your lighting actually, but it would power most of your emergency equipment and keep the pipes from freezing, basically. So, and that's a little bit of a, you know, that's a little bit of a technical jump away, but things are happening so quickly now, and they're doing it now. It's not just something they're dreaming about. They're actually doing that.
So does a bus actually, it can't charge itself?
Right. No, this would have to be fully charged.
It would have to be
Right,
fully
yeah.
charged and
Right, yeah,
Okay.
but you could, once we get those and work with them a little bit, we'll know how much power they have and we can calculate really what you can run and for how long. So, and then if you had to, with 2 or 3 buses and you had one critical building, you could just keep bringing the buses in and maybe drive them someplace to recharge them, you know, someplace that does have power, you could drive them there, recharge them and bring them back, so. A lot of possibilities there, I think. But to me, that was a really cool part with the buses. It's not just the driving around because, you know, these buses, you pay a lot of money for those and they're sitting somewhere doing nothing most of the year, all summer, most of the day even. You know, they have their routes, what, 1 or 2 hours. So that's a good feature, I think.
You have a question?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Roger, come on.
Yeah.
Roger,
Roger, come on.
do you mind coming up so we can,
People know who you are.
Going forward, would it be possible for this kind of report to include a lot more detail in terms of actual numbers? For example, whatever we're gonna spend on implementing a project of this nature, what amount is coming from outside sources? What amount is coming from tax? What amount is coming from bonds? What is the long-term cost on each, the ongoing cost, the ongoing operating cost each year, whether debt service or just managing and controlling the equipment? And then also from the same perspective, and I realize you probably haven't quite gotten there yet, the actual establishing the baseline energy usage and then the actual savings that are coming in.
Yep.
And comparing that to the cost so that we can really do kind of a cost benefit
Absolutely,
analysis.
yeah. No, the baseline we have What we don't have is these projects just aren't at the level yet where we've taken data to see them, but yeah, we'll have that going forward.
Okay,
As far as when the project's being done and what funding came from town budget and grants, I mean, we'll know that, but I think I would know the grant part and what it costs, but I think some of that would have to come down as well, so.
yeah, it just would be useful to be able to put together. a whole
Oh, yeah, no,
picture, Because
yeah.
some of this is debt service, some
Yeah.
of this is ongoing maintenance,
Yeah.
and I understand you may not actually, you're not running the equipment, so you
Right.
may not have that.
Right, yeah,
But if we could work together to come up with kind of a rolled up,
sure,
essentially GL on energy.
absolutely, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, that's a goal. and-
okay,
and that's-
great, thanks.
Sure, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Next time we'll talk about the excavator.
Yeah.
Mark, do you wanna? So in front of the board, and I'm not sure if Kerry has one, so if Kerry, you don't have one, I apologize. Is a proposal for the town to finance an excavator. And the way this would work is we would have our backhoe be bought back for $70,000 and then lease for about $124,000 the excavator. The way we paid for it this year is there are scheduled, there was money budgeted for loan payments that do not need to be paid. One of them being the backhoe itself. So we just reallocate that money towards the $27,000 that will be for this year. And then going forward, the select board will have to budget for it for the next 4 years. So that's a commitment the board will have to make if they choose to go forward with this, that knowing the next 4 years, you have to budget that money each year to pay it off. So it's really a net zero finance for this year. Mark can speak more to this, but it's his belief, and I support him, that having this machine instead of the backhoe will allow them to work quicker, faster, more efficient, get more done. I've been here for 8 months. I believe we've rented an excavator 2 or 3 times already. We borrowed the Aqueduct excavator a few times. Just because the sale of the amount of work we have to do, the backhoe just can't do it, or it takes 4 days instead of 1 day. So it's our belief this will really help our DPW get stuff done quicker, faster, and be a net benefit to the whole community. I don't know if Mark wants to add anything else to it.
So what, as Eric pointed out, what I could get done with the backhoe, if it takes 3 or 4 days, the rubber tire excavator, I can get that done in basically a day or 2. This past flood, July was, I wouldn't say it's hectic. I felt honored to help the town in the first 2 weeks that we were hit with the flood. That I don't feel as though those first 2 weeks, it wasn't hectic for me. What was hectic for myself was those following 2 weekends. I've got the town up to snuff, fixing the roads. And then I released the contractors that were working with me. It was very difficult. Once I let them go, they moved on to other towns that were in need. At that point, all I had was my crew and the equipment that we have. That was difficult to fix everything. Those following 2 weekends where we got the heavy rain. Having a rubber tire excavator that's similar to a backhoe. The specs on the rubber tire excavator that we're presenting to the town, it will travel 27 miles an hour down the road. It's kind of a in-between model that's not huge. It's not a mini excavator. So it won't take up 2 lanes of travel on a back road. It can sit right there while traffic can merge around. I've watched the operation that we currently use where the backhoe takes up the whole road, and he's limited on his swing. And he has a 6-wheeler dump truck where he has to load it. So if I'm the operator in the rubber tire excavator, I can sit right there on the side of the road and do my ditching. And I can have a dump truck right behind me. So I can ditch the side of the road and I could swing 180 degrees and load the truck behind me. Continue to work. It will take me a day or two, what it will take the backhoe 3 or 4 days. I think it's a huge asset to the town. I think it will be beneficial during snow removal. Currently, right now, every winter, the backhoe sits all winter long. So right now, I have an operator go out in the evening around 11 or 12 o'clock. The town's loader goes downtown and starts to back drag a lot of the snow off the sidewalks. You have a giant bucket off of a front end loader. It's limited to what he can get on the sidewalk. So you have parking meters, trees down there. At that point, I need to have a contractor with his equipment helping out on snow removal. I think it would be a lot. It will help if all the town employees have been plowing snow for 2 days and then we have to do snow removal. You know, everybody's tired, we're getting grumpy, and then we have to do snow removal. It would speed things up a lot with that also. I think the trade-in value on the backhoe is a great number. I wasn't expecting that. I think having a rubber tire excavator, it would be better going forward for the town. If we have an issue looking for future employee, the backhoe it's a little outdated. There's a lot of the equipment manufacturers, they don't even produce backhoes. Okay. Any questions?
I think this would be a good investment, you know. You don't see a lot of towns now are getting excavators and rubber tired, I think makes it even more useful. You don't have to trailer it, you don't have to worry about the asphalt getting.
I know
tore
a
up.
lot of the other towns in the area, they do all their ditching with a steel track excavator. Something that we would need, equivalent to this, it would have to be trailered around town. There's only a couple of my employees that have a Class A license, so if we were to purchase something equivalent to that, and then we would have to also purchase a trailer to move it. So again, the Volvo excavator, the rubber tire excavator, it goes right down the road, just like our backhoe.
And I think I understood from Eric that it was hard to find one, so.
It was
have
difficult to
Many choices.
find one.
as far as our proposal.
I started to look around to a couple other manufacturers. It's tough right now because of the flood. So a lot of them are out on rent. So this is the sales guy that I was speaking with. He was very he would get right back to me and everything. So
What year is the backhoe?
it's a 2018.
So that's gonna need to be replaced anyway, but at
Yes.
some point.
Yep.
But, hardly anyone uses the backhoe anymore. It's a lot more efficient. I think it would be great. And I see these guys cleaning ditches. And we gotta sit and wait for them to move out of the way and feel bad because the next time they get set up to do it, I think it would make it
It's, so if I schedule my work or if I'm thinking in my head how to go forward and I try to group the guys together. So I can't grade a road until the backhoe goes out there to clean out some of the ditches. Granted, our grader can do some of them, but where there's a culvert, that's where the backhoe has to go out prior to having the road graded. So what I can perform with the backhoe, I have to wait for the grader to go out there. Where having a rubber tire excavator, it would speed everything up.
I'll make a motion that we,
Roger's
sorry.
got a question.
Oh, sorry.
Question.
I wasn't
I mean,
looking up.
it sounds like kind of a no-brainer in terms of, to the extent that I understand what you're talking about.
Yes.
That it's a piece of equipment that will allow you to save staff time, which is probably more important than anything else. Just as a general question, and this is probably more for Eric, as we move forward with this kind of thing, have we started to look at sharing with other towns or organizations?
So that's a great question. When it comes to DPW, we have not. We started to do with IT services. I think, and this is the first time I'm answering this question, so I could be wrong. I think one of the issues with DPW is we're all facing the same weather conditions at the same time. So what Pomfret has,
Yeah.
what Hartford has, we all
Obviously,
need
you can't share plows.
the same thing, yeah. So I think that would be an issue. I think if it came to a piece of equipment that we didn't need all the time, I'd be very happy to look at sharing services with other communities.
Or, I mean, another thing I've seen people do is a number of towns will get together and buy 3 or
Right.
something, so that, you know, you don't have one for every town necessarily, but you have 1/4 for every town or
Yeah.
something like that. So I would just like to make sure that we keep looking at that going forward.
Absolutely.
When we're talking about this kind of investment.
Yeah. Good
So
point, thank you.
my background, I've come from a construction background. So typically in a large construction company, every operator, he pretty much has his own pick of his own piece of equipment. So that saves on maintenance. If you care about your piece of equipment or you're gonna take care of it. If you share a piece of equipment with other towns, it's not gonna last long.
Okay, I'd just like to keep, I'm sure there's downsides to it, obviously.
Yeah.
But just keep going forward, because this is a big ticket item,
Yeah.
obviously.
No, I meet with managers in the area every month, and this is one of our topics. We always talk about how can we look at sharing services going forward, because we know the strain it puts on community, so.
Great.
It's on our minds all the time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Okay, I move that we authorize the purchase and finance of the 2022 Volvo EWR 130.
Is there a second?
Second,
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we're all set. No. Charlie, come on up.
So lastly, as the board is aware, Charlie, a few weeks ago, the Woodstock Aqueduct held a public forum to talk about their current state of operations and their suggestions for going forward. With that in mind, a resident, Charlie Kimball, approached me about forming a working committee that could kind of look into this process throughout the day and kind of keep the ball rolling on those conversations, and then act as a kind of investigative team for both boards to kind of see what is the best option. Additionally, as I mentioned before, with the Harvard Business School helping us out, this committee can also be an asset to them, provide the information they may need as well, instead of coming to the boards or myself where time is limited. So Charlie's here to kind of talk about that in a grander scale, and I'll leave it to you.
Well, that was pretty much the presentation. But it was 3 weeks ago, just a little over 3 weeks ago, at the public meeting, the Woodstock Aqueduct Company presented what the current state is, what the options are. A lot of questions came up. And here we are 3 weeks later, and quickly, the Woodstock Aqueduct Company has a sense of urgency. Like if we didn't get together a group to actually pursue the answers to those questions, it'd be too late. So that was my concern in talking to Eric about it. The Harvard Business School can do some of it. They've got a short-term engagement. So they can't answer a lot of the questions that have to be asked. Some of them can only be answered by Woodstock Aqueduct Company. Some you have to answer from the perspective of the town. So that was why I thought it would be a good idea, and talking with Eric about really getting a committee together to pursue the answers to the questions that you need to have answered in order to really make a decision as to what you want to do as a board. Even stuff like, does the town want to own an aqueduct company? If the town wanted to own it, how would you finance it and who pays for it? And then could the town run an aqueduct company? So those are just three fundamental questions, and there's a lot more. I mean, I wrote down all the questions that came up from the meeting, and can go into them, but it seems like there's a lot more that need to be answered. So thinking about 5 persons on a group, a representative from the select board, a representative from the trustees, either in a full active or just sit and listen and figure out and monitor what's going on and that kind of stuff. So that then there's representation across the community to see what's going on.
And you're gonna be on the board?
I was hoping I would still be involved. We've been at this for a couple of years now, trying to figure out what's going on, or at least a year and a half, with the Woodstock Aqueduct Company. So yes, I would definitely be involved, or would want to be.
And so the hope today is just kind of introduce this topic, and then the select board meeting in 2 weeks, come back with hopefully the committee of 5 members that the board can then, you know, approve or, you know, at least acknowledge that the work they're gonna do.
Okay.
So nothing needs to be done today. This is just a start of the conversation, but I think if the board is willing, Charlie can come back in 2 weeks, I think. And kind of give an update on where they are, and hopefully, like I said, have 5 members ready to go.
We had talked about other committees at our last meeting. It
Yes.
would be helpful if we, just so we don't end up with one person on every committee.
Yep.
We talked about all the committees at the same time.
Okay.
Is the aqueduct wanting to sell? I'm there.
Yeah, so they're at a point now where they know they have to make a certain level of improvements to the system in order to meet the fire hydrant requirement for pressure and capacity. And they don't have the money, and they don't have the capacity to borrow that money based on their financial conditions. So they're faced with this problem of, well, how do we do it? So there are some potential ideas out there. I mean, the town could buy it, they could sell to a private equity company, which has happened in other places. They could try to continue on in their current role as the running and owning the Woodstock Aqueduct Company, but then how would they fund it?
Yeah.
And so some of the things are, well, do they place a higher fee on what the town is charged for the fire hydrants, for higher fire hydrant fee? So those are a lot of things that the Harvard Business School could be involved with some of that discussion, figuring that out. There's a question about how much do ratepayers pay versus other water payers and other communities. We don't really know. I mean, it's really hard to tell. But yeah, the Woodstock Aqueduct, the short answer is, yeah, they want to sell. They want to be out of the business.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that means either the town or a private entity buys them out.
You got it. Right. Because you need the water.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks, Shelley.
there it is.
Any other business?
Seeing none on lunch.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
We still have minutes,
Oh, I'm sorry.
August 29th minutes.
The special
I would
meeting.
move to
of the
approve the amendments.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Okay, now, anyone want to?
I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Aye.
all those in favor? Aye,
Aye.
it's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shocking.